Welcome to the Car Dealer Hacking Podcast, bringing you interviews with automotive industry leaders, showing tips and strategies to find the right cars for your dealership. Here's your host, Barry Neuman.
Hey everybody, this is Barry Neuman coming to you from beautiful downtown Manans, New York. I want to welcome you all to joining me on the first episode of the Car Dealer Hacking Podcast, and I got to tell you, I'm really excited. I've been working on this for a while now, and we're finally getting to it. We're finally getting some episodes done, and we're going to be getting them published here in the next few weeks. And I think you're really going to like it. But for this episode, I really wanted to go into a little bit of my background and tell you all exactly who I am, what I'm trying to do, and what's going to be in it for you. First of all, when I first got started in the car business many moons ago, back in the early 90s, I was working for this company that serviced a lot of the price shoppers and drugstores and supermarkets here in the area. And I was basically what's called a rack jobber. We would just go around from store to store and have certain sections of the stores that were my responsibility to maintain, reorder, make sure that the old stock was put in, the new stock, the damaged stock was taken out. And, it was a pretty good job. I could hustle, I could make good money, and I had my own territory. The product was shipped to a local warehouse, and I would show up every day and take those days' order around to the different stores and deliver them and put them up on the shelf. And like I said, as long as I did my job of merchandising correctly, I made a pretty good living at it. Until one day, when I showed up and opened up the warehouse door, and there was nothing there. And I made a frantic call to the office, and the office informed me that they were no longer in business and that I was unemployed. So there you have it. I signed up for unemployment, was actually doing a whole lot of nothing for a few months. And then one day, out of the blue, a friend of mine called up and wanted to know if she knew I wasn't working, and she wanted to know if I would go around with her to help her try to buy a car. So I said, sure. She said she'd buy lunch. I'm there. So we went to a few places, and then she'd done a little homework, and she'd had a car picked out. And I don't know if it was the first or second or third place we stopped at before we got to the car that she'd actually picked out. And when we got to that store, not intentionally, but as it worked out, I was what they call a rather difficult buyer, because her father had also reached out to me, and once he did that, then I really felt obligated to protect her and not let her walk into a store and just get taken advantage of. And I felt really obligated to get her a good deal. And that's really all I was along for, was just to help her, check the car out a little bit for her, make sure that the numbers weren't crazy, and try to get her those best deals possible. So after looking the car over, we took it for a test drive. We went back inside and sat down at the desk and started working on numbers. And I had a pretty good idea what the car was worth. And being a new car store, they had it marked up considerably higher than what I thought it was worth. She actually had a trade, which I didn't really have any idea it was worth. I was actually figuring her trade was worth nothing. Anyhow, to make a long story short, I made sure that I had a number picked out, and I wasn't really going to let her pay more than that number. So we went back and forth, and this is, like I said, this is the early 90s, so we had the, make an offer, salesman go into the sales manager, have the salesman come back and try to say, no, we can't get your number, this is the number we can do, and then, back and forth for a while. And I was just nicely trying to tell the salesperson that we were at our limit and that if they couldn't sell it to us for that number, that was fine. We'll shake hands and leave, and we'll continue on our journey, and we'll continue looking. So, as you know, the different steps in the car dealership are salesperson, back and forth, then the sales manager. And the sales manager came out, and he was an older gentleman. He'd been in the business for quite a while, and nice guy, was just giving me what his reasons were for me to convince me the reasons why I should buy their number. And I did a very good job, but I was just bound and determined I was going to stick to that number. So he got a little frustrated and they got a little upset, and I maintained my cool. And in the meantime, the girl that was with me was just like, okay, just buy the car. Let's just buy the car. I said, no, I promised your father I wasn't going to let you pay too much for a car, and that's what we're going to do. There are other cars we can go look at. It doesn't have to be this one. So we got up and left, and just as we were about to get back in the car, literally had the car doors open to the cars we came in. Out comes the salesman running, okay, you win. And back to the desk we go. Sat down. They sold it to her, for the number that I was stuck on, and wrote the deal up. And while we were doing that, the sales manager came back out and said, I was really impressed with the way you handled the sale. He said, are you working? So obviously I'm all dressed. I'm not dressed. I was just in like sweatpants and, very casual. And I said, no, as a matter of fact, I'm not. He said, would you like a job? So there you go. That's how I got started in the car business. The following Monday, I went to work there. I believe that was late April, early May. And by October, first of all, it didn't take me long to figure out where the money was in cars. So I became really, really good at selling used cars. And by October of that year, I had caught the number one salesperson in the dealership year to date for a total number of used cars sold. And by the end of that month, I realized that I had two choices. I could continue working there and eventually work to a top salesman position, probably make a very good living, or I could go out, get my own license, and work for myself and do it on my own. So that's what I did. By the following summer, I had my own dealer's license, a little location, and came up with a wondrous name of Reichshofen Motors. For those of you that don't know, Reichshofen is a German word. It means honest and upright. And integrity has always been a big thing with me, so I wanted to be Integrity Motors. So there you go. Reichshofen is Integrity Motors. I started out with a partner who was a German car mechanic. Thought that would be a good idea. And unfortunately, 6 months to 9 months after that, that didn't work out. So I went on my own and didn't have much money to work with. So I figured the best and quickest way to build up my bank account was just start wholesaling. I could turn them quicker. The profits were smaller, but I could do more of them. And that's how I got started wholesaling cars. From that point on, I just hustled. I just went from store to store to store and asked, can I buy your wholesale trades? Eventually, I got 4 or 5 stores that sold me cars regularly. And then in addition to that, in those days, some of the stores had bids and out behind their building where they put their wholesale cars out there and with the keys in them, they hand you a sheet, you look at the cars, you write down what you want to pay, and if you're high, you win. And this one considerable, fairly large Ford store in the area I started winning a lot of cars out of there. They started taking a lot of cars that I was selling at the auction that I was taking all the stuff to. Started a really good relationship with them, and they really did not feel comfortable doing the bid. They were frustrated because guys were coming and not picking the cars up, not paying for the cars. They were getting bad checks. They didn't really like it. So what they did essentially was do away with the bid and basically do business with 3 of the wholesalers that they felt comfortable with, and I was one of the 3. At that point in time, that was around, I don't know, mid-90s. Then I just took off. Then I went from doing, scratching out 5, 6, 7 cars a week to suddenly I was doing 15, and then I was picking up some other accounts, and then I was doing 20, and before long I was up to 30 to 35 cars a week, or taking 35 numbers a week at the auction that I was taking the cars to. Became a super seller, had year after year after year, had the highest, I was always in the top 10 of the dealers that sold there, the top 10 highest percentage selling dealers. And it was all great. Somewhere along the line, I was sold a car to a young lady that I eventually ended up marrying. Got married in 1996, and bought a house, bought a car lot, and I was just on the way. I was living the American dream, working hard, loving every minute of it. It was a lot of hard work. I was doing a lot of the work myself. I was buying them, I was cleaning them, I wasn't transporting them, but and then we'd go to the sale and sell them myself. And then, as soon as I got down off the block, got my checks, went to the bank, I was right back in the stores buying again. And that's what it was. And I was 7 days a week, pretty much, for 10, 12 years. I like I said, I loved doing it. I loved the process of appraising cars and the interaction with all the dealers that I bought from. Had a very good reputation at the auction for selling cars. If they had problems, I wasn't really. Things always got worked out, and the guys, I had regular buyers every week that were standing in the auction lanes ready to buy cars from me. So up until 2005, that's pretty much how it went. I just kept, had ups and downs. A store that I became comfortable in with and doing a lot of business with was suddenly, for whatever reason, things would change, the ownership would change, management would change, and there was no long-term contracts. You would just show up and suddenly you'd be out. So over the course of all those years in the Capital District here around Albany, I was probably in and out of well over 100 stores. Some I got thrown out of, some I left on my own. Some I came back into, did business down the road, some I didn't. But I learned early on that not to put all my eggs in one basket, so I never ever relied on just one store to get all the cars from. So that allowed me to always have a steady stream of cars, a steady stream of stores calling me, looking for numbers on cars that they could use to make deals with. And as I said, by 2008, I was averaging over 1,500 cars a year and making a pretty good profit. We consistently netted out close to $200 a car every year, so you can do the math. I was making well over $200,000 a year, and I was happy. I was getting the lot paid for, I was getting my house paid for, I actually bought another house next to me, and everything was going along great. Fast forward to 2008, the spring of 2008, for those of you that are old enough or don't remember or weren't in the car business in 2008, it started out, the big major crisis in 2008 started in April when gas literally went from $1.50 or 60 to like $4.30 literally in 10 to 14 days. It just totally upended the used car market. Anything with a V8 in it suddenly became worthless at the sale. And I don't mean just they depreciated, I mean they just stopped. Nobody was buying any of them. And as you can imagine, between what I had on the ground and what I had committed to over the phone, everything that I had or was taking in had a V8 in it. So I, in the matter of 3 months, got just crushed. So, that was tough to take. But I've never been one to give up. So at that point, by the fall of that year, around August, September, I'd gotten rid of all my stuff. I'd stopped giving out numbers on anything that I couldn't sell. I just had to say no over the phone. And so a lot of the cars that had 4 cylinders in them took off, obviously, because of the gas situation. And I was going to just recalibrate and strike off those losses and basically start over. I pretty much burned all the cash that I had, but I had a floor plan. I had stores that worked with me, so I could bounce back. So that's what I was going to do. And then, as I say, I don't know if you remember, in 2008, that was an election year. Somewhere around October, I believe, of that year, all of a sudden there was a major announcement that Lehman Brothers was going out of business. And the real estate bubble that had been built up to that point with all the junk bonds that had been created to finance all the craziness in the real estate market, just totally wiped out the rest of the business for, if you remember, but the election came, Obama got elected, and I was pretty much devastated at that point because not only, I was right back to where I was before. The markets slowed to a crawl. Didn't matter what I had, even if I had unless I had the really, really right cars, sales just stopped again. And that was more than my bank account could handle. And I got wiped out. I went right back to scratch. I had to sell my lot. It was tough. I struggled along for another 3 or 4 years that way, trying to make it. And things became tense at home. And my wife told me one day that she no longer wanted to live the way we were living. And I really didn't have any outs. And then one day in 2012, she took the kids and walked out the door, and that was the end of my marriage. So now I'm broke. My marriage is totally trashed. That's over. I don't have the lot, and none of the stores, in the meantime, while all this was going on, a lot of the stores started going directly to auctions. What I had been doing essentially had been eliminated from the auto industry. Wholesaling, the way I'd been doing it for 20 years, suddenly ended. So not only can I not rebound, but the industry that I had been successful in, for all intents and purposes, no longer existed. So, excuse me. So I struggled along for another 2 or 3 years. I tried working for a couple other people. I just kind of fell apart. Anybody that's been through a divorce and those kind of things, understandably, can realize that it was just devastating. I just fell apart. So slowly, with the help of some other dealer friends that put me to work for them for a while, I was able to kind of get back on my feet. Around 2012, 2013, I got my first smartphone, became aware of online selling through the auction house, Mannheim's online dealer-only site, OVE.com. Got really good at that and putting cars up there. And by the time 2016 rolled around, I was selling quite a few cars right online, and mostly because of the size of the audience. Suddenly, I just didn't have to contain myself to the audience that showed up at the auction. I can now sell to all of Mannheim's audience, all over the country, all over the world. So I was able to kind of right the ship a little bit, and at that point in 2016 began studying really studying hard online marketing. At that point in time, in January of 2016, I came across the software company ClickFunnels and dove deep into their sales funnel training to kind of understand it all. I could see that through the cars that I was selling online, that there was an opportunity for me to be able to teach other people in the car business how to market cars online. So that's what I did. I became a student of the copywriters, the old school copywriters. I learned a lot of about Gary Halbert, one of the best copywriters ever. I honed my sales skills even more by studying greats like Chet Holmes, who wrote the I can't think of the name of the book. I'm sorry, Chet. I read the book How to Become Rich by Felix Dennis, which essentially told me that I was too old to be able to start over and ever accumulate any kind of wealth, and that kind of spurred me on. I took it as a challenge to maybe not be as rich as he was, because he was worth like $500 million when he died, but I was determined that I was going to be able to create an online business and turn things around, and that's what I set out to do. One of the major trainings that Russell Brunson, who is one of the founders of ClickFunnels, offered was the marketing training that he called Inception Secrets. And essentially what that means is that you or I or anybody, if we were to take our dream, whatever our dream is, and make that, and then wave a magic wand, and suddenly that dream came true, what would it look like? Which was really eye-opening for me. From that point on, I was able to really formulate the things that I wanted to do more in my mind. And then with Russell's training of reverse engineering that, suddenly I could see a vision of the things that I could build, and found out the restrictions to build them were non-existent. They were walls there, but they were walls that once you had the knowledge, the walls disappeared. And it was something that you could learn, and that none of it really was a mystery. You just had to put in the time and execute, and you or me or anybody can learn how to build an online business. So that's what I set out to do. I created what essentially was what I had done for the first 20 years of me being in the car business, and adapted what I had done with the online marketing that I had learned, and created what today is the auto arbitrage formula. And essentially, that's just a series of steps that anybody, regardless whether you're wholesale or retail, anybody has to go through certain steps to, whether you're a salesperson or a sales manager or a wholesale-only dealer or an independent dealer. It's all the same marketing that we all have to know to be able to buy and sell cars. Because when it gets right down to it, that's all we're really doing. That's all we're really doing is just buying and selling cars. It's not rocket science. It's all about learning how to find the market, which is the main point of the auto arbitrage formula. I call it the ravenous market. And you or I or anybody, if we go out and find a ravenous market where people need cars, want cars, will buy cars, and are able to buy cars, all you have to do is go find them to sell them to them. And as soon as I was able to work all those steps of that process out, I was consistently able to sell more and more cars again online. And as of, I believe, a year ago, October, I officially sell more cars online than I do at live auctions. So after I had spent some time learning ClickFunnels and the Inception Secret training and marketing, the next step for me was to start publishing. So as I said, I became a student at Gary Halbert. I worked on my copywriting skills. I worked really hard at putting out a blog post. I found a community of automotive people run by a man named Ralph Paglia, who was nice enough to let me put my initial blog post in front of his community. And I did that for every week for a year. And slowly but surely, I was getting some feedback and was kind of getting the hang of what copy was all about, how to build emotion into the copy, and how to educate and entertain through copy. And I love it. I do it every day. I can't wait to wake up in the morning to sit down and write. From there, another part of what Russell emphasizes in online marketing training is that you have to really master the three forms of communication, whether they're written, whether they're speaking as in the form of like radio, podcasts, or as we all know, that are in doing social media marketing now, that video is that's just it. I mean, people respond higher to videos than anything else. But if to do an online business, you have to really master all of those three forms of communication. You have to know what forms of communication the audience you're speaking to wants to receive the message in. Some people like to listen to it, some people like to watch videos, and some people still like to read the things that they're learning. So that's what I did. Inside of the auto arbitrage formula, I created what you're listening to now, the Car Dealer Hacking Podcast. I'm also in the process of creating an online newspaper called Auction Buzz, which is a continuation of the blog that I used to write in front of Ralph's audience, and we're gonna blow that out to a full-blown once-a-week online preeminent source of news in the auto industry. And I have a YouTube channel set up for the training that we're going to be putting out in the months and years ahead to help you all out there in the car business that want to grow your business, whether it be, as I say, whether you're a salesperson working for somebody else, or you're an independent dealer, or even if you're multi-shingle location, with different locations, the marketing principles are the same. And we're going to be showing you different things that as they become proven, because I'm a big believer in measuring the content that we're putting out to measure the response that you get from the audience, because it doesn't do any good to put something else if you like it if nobody else gives a shit. So that's another big thing that I learned along the way, is that it doesn't really matter what you look like, what you sound like, what you do, as long as you always put the people that you're speaking to or selling to out there first. If what you're doing is what they want, then you'll always have an audience. You'll always find more and more people that you can sell to. About a year or so ago, I decided to jump on to one of the social media platforms that I was most comfortable with, and after checking several of them out, I got an Instagram account. And excuse me again. And I found out that Instagram was made for me. I absolutely love Instagram. I call it the Wild Wild West. It's a platform that has everything. It has video, it has pictures, and you can write essentially mini sales letters. I try to construct like mini sales letters that educate and entertain, that go along with every Instagram post that I create. There is always going to be a story, a message, and essentially a call to action. And from a beginning where I had 100 followers, consistently posting every single day, 365 days a year, I've now got it built up. I just went over 13,000 followers. And if you are following me on Instagram, I want to thank you. And you can rest assured that I will continue to be putting out content on there for, as I say, in months and years to come. So that's pretty much it. That we're pretty much up to speed. So now, each week, probably on Fridays, we're going to go around to different dealerships, sit down with the people that work in the stores for a podcast interview style, where we're going to be able to ask them what they're doing for social media marketing, what's working for them, what's not working for them, what they're doing well, what they're struggling with. So as you come and listen to the episodes of the podcast, you'll be able to take out pieces of what we're talking about and apply them to the things that you're doing. So that's going to be fun. I'm really excited. I've reached out to about 15 dealers already, and most of them are as excited about doing it with me as I am doing it with them, which is really, really cool. So that should be fun. I got new car dealers, independent dealers, little guys, big guys. And in addition to that, we're also going to be from time to time interviewing the people in marketing that I have been doing business with now for the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of the people that have helped me along the way to get to the point that I'm at now, including Russell Brunson, Henry Kaminsky, who's been just a phenomenal mentor for me for branding and figuring out exactly what the hell I wanted to do and where I wanted to go with all this. And he's been instrumental in getting me to this point. And he's been nice enough to let me know that he will jump on a podcast with me as well. And we're going to be able to let you tell me exactly who you want to hear from as we go along too. There'll be places that you can engage with, to leave comments and questions as we go. As the episodes go along, you'll be able to contribute to the questions that we ask and suggestions of who you'd like to hear from. And that's it. That's all I'm going to go over today. So, as I said, I'm really excited to get started with this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll be able to get a lot out of it if you're in the car business, because the main driving force of all this is I do not want to see any of you have to go through what I went through in 2008. And today, with the amount of training, with the amount of people that are out there that sincerely want to help you get better in whatever area of the car business that you're in, there's no reason why you should ever have to do that. That, and the fact that with the amount of disruption going forward that we're all going to have to deal with, I think it's imperative that there's a voice out there that's questioning what's happening, questioning why the things are happening, questioning the things that are happening and how they relate to us in the car business. And, we have the amount of artificial intelligence that's coming online, autonomous cars, more and more online sales techniques and strategies. So it's going to be fun. I hope you're excited as I am, and I hope you look forward to the episodes coming up in the future. That's all I got for you now. If you can, click the link and leave some comments. Let me know what you think. And until next time, out for now.
You've been listening to Car Dealer Hacking with Barry Neuman. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.wholesalecarflipping.com.